I'm going to invite you to keep this consciousness, this idea of your unique selves as beautiful expressions of the divine as we go into meditation today. So I invite you to take a few breaths here this morning, breathing in a sense of peace and calm, and breathing out and allowing yourself to smile. Just allow yourself a few moments to focus on your breath here. And allow that inner happiness, that inner joy to make its way to your face. You are beautiful, unique expressions of the divine. I invite you to connect with that indwelling presence, that place of beauty and hope and peace and love, kindness and grace. That place where you know you are always welcome. You are whole. You are filled with love and are the action of love. Just allow yourself to be in this place for just a few moments. No need to worry about the time. No need to worry about your to-do list today. Just keep bringing yourself back to the breath and back to that presence within. As we take a few moments here to enter the silence, enter the silence. Allow yourself to rest for a few more moments in this place of peace and stillness, this place of love for yourself and for others. Knowing that in this moment, you are expressing in the beautiful manner in only which you can express. You are the essence of God unfolding. Love in action. A light unto the world. So I invite you to take a few more breaths here. Knowing this place of stillness, this place of beingness. Now I invite you to bring your awareness gently back to your body temple. Allow yourself to feel the sensations of the body. Maybe wiggle fingers or toes. Maybe roll your shoulders or stretch your neck. And when you're ready, I invite you to return to this space. So peaceful, you just don't want to leave. Good morning. How was that this morning? Good. So again, I want to welcome you on behalf of Unity Spiritual Center of Panama City. Thank you for your presence here today. Thank you for those who are joining us on Facebook. And so this morning, I want to invite you to explore an idea with me. It's an idea from Martha Creek's book, Presence and Potential. It's about reaching for your higher self. It's about experiencing your wholeness. Now in chapter 5, she asks her readers to consider releasing the need to demand or expect others to think, feel, or act like you do. How many of you guys find that difficult? I won't ask for a show of hands. I know I do. So as I was reading this short passage over several times the past couple weeks, preparing for this message, I kept bringing myself back to one of my favorite poets, Khalil Gibran, and one of my favorite poems of his on children. And it comes from his larger collection called The Prophet. And so I want to share this with you because it really does speak to this releasing the need to expect others to think, feel, or act as we do. And a woman who held a babe against her bosom said, "Speak to us of children." And he said, "Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you. For life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness, for even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he loves also the bow that is stable. This poem doesn't just speak to children, it speaks to anybody that we love, anybody that we want to help, to show compassion for, to guide, to mentor. Everyone that is in our lives. This poem reminds us that we can love those in our lives, inspire and empower those in our lives. We can shine our light and hopefully maybe offer some guidance to those who are in our lives, but we cannot control them. We cannot control their direction. We cannot control their path. No matter how hard we try, and trust me, I've been there, I've tried, we cannot give others our thoughts, our feelings, or our actions. They have to make a choice on their own. But to release this need to do so, releasing this need to expect others to think, feel, or act as we do, allows us to be the bow that is stable. This poem also reminds us that we are indeed unique individual expressions of the divine. And this is something that science confirms for us. Just as we have unique fingerprints, right? We too also have unique brains and brain anatomy. Now, you might say, is that really true? Don't they do scans? Don't we all have kind of similar neural networks? Well, in a scientific study in 2018, researchers at the University of Zurich, it's a study of over 200 people, determined that every person in that study did indeed have a unique brain anatomy on the tiniest level that was like a fingerprint. It's based on both genetics and the neural connections that you make based on your unique life experiences. No two people, even if they share the same genetics, are going to share the exact same life experiences. Now, because of this uniqueness, we can surmise, I think, with good, authority, that every person has their own unique individual brain patterns that they've developed over their lifetime that's going to determine how they're going to think, how they're going to feel, and how they're going to act. And these neural connections, yes, certain areas of the brain may light up similarly between me and you to certain stimuli, but my brain's not going to be exactly like yours, and yours is not going to be exactly like mine. Now, this might seem like something, hey, that's easy to grasp. That feels like well, duh. We're all unique, right? But how much more difficult is this to realize in practice? To allow others to show up in their full expression. Why is it that it's so difficult to practice? And I meditated on this too. And here's the thing. Scholars, researchers, religious authorities, way showers of all types will tell you that we only have access to us. We only have access to the way we think, the way we feel, the way we might act in a given situation. Now, our brains like to predict. And so we have a tendency based on, these are the patterns I've picked up to predict how others are going to think or feel or act in a situation. But the truth of the matter is, no matter how much we think we can predict, we don't know how others truly think, feel, or will act in a given situation. We only know with a modicum, and I use this word specifically, a modicum of certainty about ourselves. So, show of hands, is there anyone in this room who can say and proclaim that they fully understand their brains? They know what their mind's going to do. They know exactly how they're going to think, feel, or act in a given situation. None of us, right? And if we can't predict ourselves, what makes us think we can predict others? Yet our brains like to do this. So no matter how hard we try, and trust me, I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and I've failed and I've failed and I've failed, we cannot control others. We cannot control their actions, their thoughts, their words, their values, their beliefs. We can only control this for ourselves, and that takes a lot of practice to do. And this, my friends, can be a difficult, bitter pill to swallow because it means we have to hold ourselves accountable. We have to take responsibility for us. Now, our brains are indeed wired to predict. There's a comfort in prediction. When I was out with the ladies yesterday, there was a comfort in some of us ordering our favorite meal from Olive Garden. There is a comfort. Think about your favorite meal and how much comfort that brings to you. Even the thought of it. Knowing what it's going to taste like, knowing what it's going to feel like. What about your favorite movie? How many times have you watched that with a comfort knowing what the actors are going to say, what the scene's going to, how the plot's going to end up? You know. And so there's a comfort to this. There's a comfort to going to our favorite vacation spot or going to our favorite place on our morning walk or our favorite place to drive. And there is comfort in being around our favorite people. It's predictable. Our brains, at least, think it's predictable. And so predictability brings comfort. Well, what does unpredictability bring? Well, sometimes fun and excitement. But sometimes unpredictability brings other things. A sense of dread, a sense of doubt, a sense of anxiety, worry, or fear. And so imagine this if we realized to the full extent that we could, that others, we can't control them, we can't predict what they're going to do, how much anxiety that might let in. And so our brains like to trick us. They like us to imagine a world where others think, feel, and act like we do. This couldn't be further from the truth, though. And so there's been many times I've had to learn this lesson and relearn this lesson and relearn this lesson over the years, and somehow I keep forgetting. So I'm going to share with you a kind of series of experiences that I had when I was teaching and how I had to learn this lesson the hard way. So back in 2015, when I graduated with my master's in art history, I went and I started teaching art appreciation. And during this time, when I first started teaching, I was really excited. I'm going to be the best instructor I can be. But I had a lot of difficulty embracing the fact that, yes, young adults and even adults who are my age or even older who are going into a college setting don't always value instruction or courses or the content in the same way I do. Some end up choosing not to do the work, to prioritize their other classes over the class I'm teaching, to prioritize their sports or their hobbies or the fun times with friends or their families or even their employment. So each semester I got this lesson, and instructors out there could probably all raise their hand to this because they've been through this. Every year I face the same pain, every semester I face the same painful task. I had to give non-passing grades, non-satisfactory marks to a handful of students. And you hate to do that as an instructor. So even as I pushed myself to intervene earlier and earlier in the semester. I allowed my students more options in their projects and how they completed them. Well, maybe a PowerPoint presentation or a paper, maybe they want more options. Maybe they want to develop a website or create like an interactive museum kind of experience, like a little gallery experience. Maybe they want to do some sort of video. Maybe they want the creative aspect of being able to do this and make it their own. Maybe they want more choices for the works that they are looking at. And yet, each semester, I still ended up with the same thing. There were still going to be a handful of students that missed the mark. Now, what happens when a teacher's faced with that? Either I'm doing something wrong or the student's doing something wrong. There's judgment there. And so no matter as good of an instructor as I knew I was, and I know I am, as much as I try, as much of this intention as I put out there to do my best, there's always going to be those students who choose to miss the mark, to choose other things, other priorities. And that is okay. That's their choice to make. So looking back on this, I can see all the judgment I held. It wasn't necessarily the expectations. I'm an instructor. I have to have expectations in a course in order to evaluate a student's outcome. Did the student receive a passing grade? Did they not receive a passing grade? But it's the judgment that they would think, feel, and act like I would when I was a student. And it took me years to stop taking this personally. And it took me additional years, especially if cheating was involved, to not take that personally. And I had to understand that students had a different perspective than mine. They're not going to make the same choices I would. They have different values, different beliefs. Most students, weren't going to come into that classroom and appreciate and value art the way I appreciated and valued art. So no matter how hard I tried, there were still going to be a handful of students every semester that missed the mark. The job is to not take it personally. The job is to hold people with support, to give them the tools to empower themselves, especially if you're in a mentoring kind of relationship with them, but allow them to make their own choices. So the more I've delved into how our brains are unique, and truly they are unique, I'm understanding also how my unique brain works. My brain that falls somewhere on the autism spectrum. But even within that spectrum of autistic experiences, no two autistic people have the same experiences. No two people have the same symptoms or expressions. Each of us is a unique expression. And here's the thing, the way I process the world's unique to me, the way you process the world's unique to you. But therein lies the beauty. The beauty in this world lies in our uniqueness, in our diversity. I wouldn't want to take away your uniqueness. I wouldn't want to take away the uniqueness of my students or anyone else. And I certainly hope you wouldn't want to take away my uniqueness. The most I can do is hold space for others, support them, but not hold expectations or demands, especially ones that are backed in judgment. So what happens if we don't release these expectations and demands? Sometimes I've spoken before about hidden expectations, unspoken expectations. So what happens when we hold on to this, when we cling to this, and then somebody doesn't live up to our expectations, our demands? there's a dichotomy that is created in our minds. Either they did something wrong or I did something wrong, and it affects either the way we see our worth or the way we see their worth. And it separates us. So we end up carrying this pain. We end up creating this internal struggle, this pain and anxiety, a sense of their worthiness, which didn't meet the mark, or a sense of our worthiness, which didn't meet the mark. But it doesn't have to be this way. What happens when we start to release? When we release these expectations, these demands that people are going to think, feel, or act like we do, we set ourselves free. We give ourselves, in the words of Martha Creek, the ability to respond more and react less. And when we respond, give ourselves the space to respond, we respond with love and compassion and understanding that this person is on their own unique path, rather than react from a place of fear or judgment. Now, this isn't easy. Releasing your expectations is going to be a lifelong practice. I'm certainly not a master. I'm not going to proclaim to be. But it allows us to see ourselves and others from a place of wholeness when we can release this stuff we carry. And doing so allows us to become the bow that is stable and allows us to support others on their flight, no matter what that would be. I want to say thank you for being here today. But this message is going to dovetail into Ron's message next week about accepting differences between people. So I'm going to invite you to come back next Sunday and to listen to the tools and the tips and the information that Ron is going to share with us about accepting differences between people as we continue to explore Martha Creek's book, Presence and Potential. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you, Melissa. That was wonderful. Very good.